presented by Awesemo.com. I am Dave Lochran. That is Adam Scher, and we've got a 9-game slate for you. What's happening, pal?
How's it going? Pretty excited to finally be talking basketball again.
You get your BAL down?
I don't know what that means.
Your blood alcohol level?
Oh. Not even what the problem was, but yeah, that's down too.
I believe you. Oh man. Let's get started. You're still not home yet, huh?
No, I'm in Fort Lauderdale now. I'm here till Sunday.
When were you scheduled to come home?
I was scheduled to go home on Wednesday, and it was snowing in Maryland, so I pushed it back to Thursday. Had some problems on Thursday, and so now I'm just here till Sunday because why not?
Yeah, why not? That is the truth. All right, well, we got 9 games. Josh and I held down the fort yesterday on the deeper dive, but you're back, and we're going to get started. Had the strategy show today. Ran into some problems. I don't know why. I have no idea what happened. Everything seemed fine until it wasn't. But we got through it, and now we've got a little bit of news here. Let's just, before we dive right into it, Adam, any news throughout the day that broke, and I know there is, but I'm just going to toss this to you, that we're waiting on as far as questionable players or guys that have been ruled out goes?
Yeah, I mean, the two big pieces, Karl Anthony Towns questionable after, I believe, a car accident yesterday, and then Luka Doncic questionable with I don't know what, just because that's what he is every day.
All right. Yeah, he really is for numerous different reasons. Let's get into it. We'll start with Washington and Charlotte. Oh, and hey, we're glad to have you guys back with us following the break. We've got Charlotte at home, 5-point favorites, a 232 total on this one. Pretty nice. Definitely a pace-up spot for the Hornets. Kemba Walker, around 1.4 DraftKings points per minute since Cody Zeller's returned. He has looked very good. And then, Jeremy Lamb, couple of real strong games, played 18 minutes. The last game, they lost by like 30-some points. What do you make of this Hornets team starting with the backcourt?
I think there's a lot to like here. I mean, obviously, it's a 9-game slate, and I don't think any of these guys are, like absolute core plays or anything like that. But there's certainly stuff to like, starting with Kemba, who has, not surprisingly, been very good since Cody Zeller came back. In those 5 games, he's averaged over 1.3 fantasy points per minute. And for the season, we've seen him be very, very good when he has his pick-and-roll partner out there. So I think that he's a good play. There's guys around him that I like. You have Bradley Beal on the other side. You have Luka. But I think that Walker on his own is a good play. Jeremy Lamb, it's the kind of spot where I think he can do really well. It's a poor rebounding Washington team. And normally when you get Lamb running into those big games, it's because he has an efficient shooting game and he picks up some peripherals. So it's a good spot for him if he gets up over 30 minutes again, which we don't want to take too much away from the last game. We basically can just sum it up by saying that his minutes have been inconsistent all season long. So there's certainly upside there, but with a rising price tag, it's not a spot where you're going to feel really comfortable in the floor compared to some other guys. So Kemba, I really like. Lamb, I like a bit less, but I think that it's a good spot for both of them.
All right, fair enough. I think so too. I mean, when it comes to Kemba, I guess the question is, well, and really, the point guard position is not nearly as deep as it would normally be on a 9-game slate. Like, there's some value, and I think once we get into that 5K range, we'll get into it more. But just in terms of it usually being top heavy, it's not there. A lot of them were on the slate last night. A lot of them disappointed, but they were there. Kemba, in relation to the position, do you have him ranked up there?
Yeah, and I think that in addition to the point you just made about it not being a really deep position, like the shooting guard and small forward positions aren't deep either, but I think that there's better or at least more value down at the bottom. So from a roster construction standpoint, I think it'll be a little bit easier to pay down at those positions and then find some money up at the top. So in my initial crunch, I was getting a lot of Russell Westbrook over Kemba. That was without setting my caps too strict. I was also getting a lot of Collison, a lot of Rubio. So I still wouldn't say Kemba is a huge priority, but I think that it's easy enough to get to that price range.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Anybody else on this Hornets team, the Batums and the Williams? I mean, they're cheap, but they are who they are, and you pretty much know what you're getting from them, or at least you have a generally good idea of what you're going to get from these guys. I honestly feel like if I'm playing Williams or Batum, say I wanted to play one of them at small forward, I I just have a little bit more faith in somebody like Williams, but that doesn't mean that I have a lot of faith in either of them.
Yeah, I mean, Williams, I'm actually getting in a lot of those initial lineups on DraftKings because I can roster him at small forward. And I think that this is a good spot for him because, even with Cody Zeller back, we're still seeing plenty of minutes at center for Marvin Williams. This is a Washington team that we know will play small with, Portis, Parker, Green, whoever at center. It's a bad rebounding team, and it's also been the second worst team at defending the three-point line since the start of January. So if you were going to draw up the ideal matchup for Williams, it would be a team that plays small. It would be a team that gives up a lot of open looks from three. And we know Washington's going to have their hands full, selling out to stop Kemba. So I think you do get some open looks for Williams. Played 22 minutes last game, but in 5 of his last 6 games that have been decided by 10 points or less, he's played at least 31 minutes. So I do like Marvin Williams, especially where he has small forward eligibility.
Yeah, I prefer him over Batum at that position for sure. Just being that Batum, and it's not that he has a low floor, which he does, but I mean his floor and ceiling are like 2 points apart at this point. It's tough to get there. Cody Zeller he's Cody Zeller, right? I mean, really, that's all there is to it. He's playing pretty well. He's played 30-plus minutes in back-to-back games. Interesting because 30 minutes in that blowout loss to Orlando, where they lost by what? Like, what was it, 40 points almost? I mean, they got hammered in that game, and he's still got 30 minutes of run. He's $5,200 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Zeller's weighing in at $6,400. He's starting to get up there where we're no longer saying, oh, yeah, that's pretty good value.
Yeah, I like him at this price point. It's more of the center position's top heavy. Obviously, we're waiting on that Karl Anthony Towns news. But even if you assume he's out, so it's like if Towns is in, you have 4 very good expensive centers, and then you have Joakim Noah at the bottom. If Towns is out, you have 3 very good expensive centers, and then you have Joakim Noah plus Gibson / Gorgie Jang from Minnesota. So it just is like an awkward price point, even though in a vacuum I love the spot, and I think that Zeller does well. It's just if you get like 32 fantasy points from Zeller, it's 6x or close to it, but it probably still doesn't really help you win anything.
Right. It's exactly where I'm at as well. On the other side of this game, Bradley Beal is 9,200 on DraftKings. He is 9,400 on FanDuel. Now, it's hard to compare him to somebody like to Doncic, who's questionable, but it's hard to compare him because Doncic is now point guard, small forward again, and they're very similarly priced. Really, other than he at the point guard or at shooting guard, he's kind of in a world of his own or a tier of his own because you've got Donovan Mitchell, then you've got Holiday, who we're expecting to play fewer minutes, and then you get down to guys like DeRozan, who we'll definitely talk about at length. But with Satoransky expected back, it definitely takes some shine off of Beal. I'm not saying against this Charlotte team in the highest total game of the night he can't still perform, but with Satoransky out, we saw another level of Bradley Beal that certainly is something I'd like to see more of going forward, but Satoransky should be active tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Satoransky being back certainly makes it less appealing. The position being as terrible as it is does still...
It's horrible.
Yeah, it still firmly keeps him in play. Like when I wrote the deep dive for this position, I didn't write up Beal because I just kind of didn't even want to pay up that much at this position. But it was just like, what do you even do? Like the mid-range isn't good. The top isn't good. The bottom has a bunch of options. Most of them suck, but they're, a couple of them probably come through. So, I mean, the point being that even with Satoransky on the floor since the start of January, so basically since John Wall went down, still 1.15 points per minute for Beal and, still playing around 37, 38 minutes in competitive games. So I think that he's fine. It's just that it's still kind of paying up just for the sake of paying up. I think I certainly would like him more if Luka sits, even though they're different positions, but just because, it kind of opens up that price range for me.
Which is one of the reasons I'll probably end up on a decent amount of DeMar DeRozan because the position is dreadful. We'll get there, though. Aside from Beal, you've got Jabari Parker, who projecting his minutes right now isn't exactly the most fun thing in the world. He's played 4 games with the Wizards, 23 minutes, 34 minutes, 20 minutes, 34 minutes. So there you have it, Adam.
Yeah, it's all over the place. And I know you and I have talked about it before, just that it's going to be hot hand with these 3 and your 3.5, I guess, if you want to kind of include Thomas Bryant, front court players for the Wizards. I mean, if Parker's playing really well, you'll see more minutes for him. If Portis is playing really well, same thing, and same goes for Jeff Green. Parker, looking at their DraftKings prices, is my favorite out of the three. Right now, I have Portis at 30 minutes. I have Green at 28. I have Parker at 28. Again, I think that fluctuates a lot, but I do like what I've seen from Parker as far as facilitating, in addition to providing some scoring and some rebounding. So, at a $5,500 price tag, I don't have a problem with Parker, but everyone kind of drops off after Bradley Beal from this team.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with him either. And honestly, at this rate, I'm more tempted just to continue playing the less expensive guy, because I think they all run the same risk of getting Scott Brooks, and that's not to say that I don't I think Bobby Portis has a lot of upside. We know he does, but hey, if you're getting the $700 discount on DraftKings, you have that. But you also have another thing, Adam. Small forward isn't particularly deep either, and Parker's eligible at small forward, so that makes a difference as well.
Yep, totally agree. And just to kind of double back to what I was saying about my initial thought on the position being that I wanted to pay down, I just looked at the 55 lineups I crunched before the show, and Beal is my highest owned expensive shooting guard, but he's in 2 out of those 54 lineups, and everyone above him is just 5,500 or less.
Right. Anybody else from Washington?
Not with any sort of regularity.
All right, let's move on to the Pacers and the Pelicans then. Indiana Pacers, 6.5-point favorites at home. We've got a 222 total here. Let's just kick it off with this. Compare notes. We know that Anthony Davis is expected to play around 25 minutes for the rest of the season. So that's cool, I guess. But what do you make of what do you make? So we know that that's at least what should. Maybe he plays less, right? I wouldn't be surprised if he plays less. What do you have Davis and Holiday projected at from a minute standpoint?
I have Davis at 25, and I'm going 30 on Drew. I don't really know what else to do with them. I don't think that I'm going to get much of anything either way, but I would just kind of rather put them there than under project them.
Yeah, it's disappointing because if I was still projecting Drew for his normal workload, I'd have a lot of him at shooting guard at 8,200.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, but I have no faith in his ability to do that. We can start with the Pelicans here. Julius Randle, $7,400 on DraftKings, $7,800 on FanDuel. Elfrid Payton is back in the mix here. And then outside of that, you've got your Kenrich Williams and your Jahlil Okafors. Not the greatest matchup. It's still a Pacers defense that is playing pretty well despite Oladipo being out. Top 5 defensive rating since the start of January. The numbers are still strong. Not to mention, they're also playing at a bottom 10 pace as well. Or you know what? They might be middle of the road. Nope. Yeah, they're bottom, the 6th or 7th slowest pace over that span. Anybody stand out to you from the Pelicans?
No, nobody stands out. Julius Randle would be my favorite play. I have him as a positive play here, but when you compare him to other guys at the position, it's still not a huge priority. I'm lower on him as the day's gone on than I was this morning when I wrote the article. I have him projected for 33 minutes. He played 38 the last game when he started. I don't know. Maybe he plays more. Maybe he doesn't. The fact that they are resting, or not resting, but limiting Drew and Davis, I could see an argument where it bodes really well for Randle playing more minutes, and I could see an argument where it doesn't. So I'm really interested to see where his minutes come out. He's averaged 1.38 minutes without Davis on the floor this season, 1.25 overall. So I think that there's clearly upside, and he's a perfectly reasonable option here. It's just that when you start comparing him to other guys at the position, I have guys like Blake ahead of him.
Yeah, I'm with you. We talked about this morning, and I think what makes it difficult, you'd probably agree, is you look at Randall's price and you're like, that seems pretty inexpensive given Anthony Davis is expected to play fewer minutes, knowing that he can get 32, 33 minutes off the bench, and he's still not popping for me. Run crunches, I'm still not getting what I expected, but I don't think Randle by any means at 74 and 7,800 is a bad play at all. It's just
right. If I
go ahead.
Yeah, if I give him 33 or 34 minutes, I get 39 to 40 DraftKings points. That puts him in the range where, across 150 lineups, or if I'm playing a bunch of tournaments, more lineups than that, I'm going to have some Julius Randle, almost no question, because I have him as the best play on this team by a wide margin. It's just that across the rest of the position and the rest of that price range, there are still guys that I like more.
I'm with you there. I'm with you. And outside of that, I can't get anywhere else. At least not with any certainty. Go ahead and talk to me about the Pacers here. What do you have for the Indiana Pacers?
Yeah, I mean, much higher on Indiana.
Adam, give me. I'm sorry. Give me one. Talk for 1 second. Give me 1 second, okay? I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So,
if Josh could jump in
all right.
for 1 second, that would be great.
I'm here.
Thank you.
All right, yeah. So definitely higher on the Indiana side than the Pelican side. Not necessarily that I want to load up on a bunch of these guys in the same lineup, but we have Myles Turner, who's questionable. If he plays, I think he's a reasonable play, though there are other centers I like more. If he sits, obviously Domantas Sabonis becomes a phenomenal option. But even if Turner's in, if you're going to get 23, 24 minutes of Sabonis at what has become a very inexpensive price tag, at least on DraftKings with power forward eligibility, then there's still appeal there. Bogdanovich, my favorite, or I guess Bogdanovich and Collison, my favorite plays from Indiana. Collison, the price tag's getting up there a little bit, but still we've seen almost a 20% usage rate and a 33% assist percentage since Oladipo went down. Bogdanovich has a 25.5% usage rate since Oladipo's injury. He's averaged about 0.9 fantasy points per minute. And now you get, an up-tempo game against the Pelicans defense that isn't very good. So, you have Bogdanovich at shooting guard and small forward, which are both really weak positions, like we mentioned, and you have Collison at what's not really a good point guard position either. So, I like both of those guys, and then I would say that, Turner, Young, Sabonis are secondary type plays.
Do you like Collison as chalk?
Not nearly as much. I mean, I think there are pivots in there where you have, Ricky Rubio, you have Jeff Teague. So if Collison's going to be higher owned than those guys, it certainly, takes some appeal away, because I don't think there's much of a difference.
We just had an update at 1 minute ago, so let me check and see what we have the ownership at. Collison was the second highest guy on DK earlier today. He has fallen to 4. He's fourth. Well, he's technically tied for second right now. Bazemore is chalk at 26. Then we've got Blake, Jeff Teague, and Darren Collison at 22.
And where's Rubio?
I've been better off pasting this in.
That makes me think I'm going to have a lot of Rubio.
11.
Yeah, half. I mean, to me, yeah, and to me, they're really similar plays. Like I have them both projected for 32 minutes. Rubio's been over a fantasy point per minute guy since returning from his injury. Collison is right around there without Oladipo. So, and they're both in, huge pace up spots. So to me, there's just really not a big difference between Rubio and Collison.
I could not agree more. They are basically equals when I am flipping between them. And if one of them is going to be at half of the ownership, it makes it pretty easy to make that move. And that price range
especially
is
also
loaded too.
Yeah, and also even if, kind of like I said at the top with the Pacers, I like the spot for them as a team, and we've seen over and over again that normally it's like one or two guys that do a lot of the damage. So from a roster construction standpoint, I can take a lower-owned Rubio, pair him with Bogdanovich at a really weak position, and then, have exposure to the Pacers and to Rubio instead of taking like both of those guys from Indiana.
Yeah. Plus, like Satoransky, exact same price range, 3% ownership right now. Another easy spot where it's just you can get on a guy that's super low. Who else do we have in this range? Derrick Rose is at 1%. If Cat ends up out, like there's just so many other places to go. So I understand why Collison's getting owned.
Right. I think he's a good play.
Yeah, I agree with it. I'm probably going to have to make a little bit of a move there just for ownership's sake.
Right. Like I could see where I come in, like even or below on Collison, but then, overweight on guys like Rubio.
Yep. Turner, I love so long as he's in the game. I don't get. I don't have as much interest in Bojan though. Ah, damn it! I said it wrong.
Really?
Bojan.
Bojan.
Yeah. Okay. Got to correct myself now that Laffy called me out on it. He's not even here to hear me fix it. Yeah. For some reason, I'm not getting as much of him. I'm a little surprised.
He was popping up for me. I mean, it always makes me scared, but I just think it's a good spot for him. In those initial, the initial like 55 lineups I crunched, I got like 40%. Ooh. Again, that wasn't with like real ownership caps yet or anything. It was just me capping everyone at 60.
That's not outlandish.
But yeah,
we have him at 14 right now.
Okay.
You're looking for a reference point. You think Tyreke Evans plays?
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I mean, I have him and Turner in right now.
If he doesn't, I don't. Do you think it matters?
It would just make me feel a little bit better about Bogdanovich.
Would you feel any better about Corey Joseph?
Would I feel better about him, or would I give him more minutes?
Well, both, I guess.
I mean, I'd give him more minutes. I still would treat him like he's Corey Joseph.
Okay.
I would like Collison a little bit more, I guess, just because whatever shared minutes they have, it makes Collison a little bit more productive.
Oh, it sounds like the strategy show. We're still on the Pacers, huh?
Yep.
Get Josh involved, and we'll never stop.
My bad.
I'm
My
just
bad.
bad. No, thank you. Thank you. That was
Apparently all I did was run in place. So.
Oh man! All right. Somebody just jumped through my window downstairs, shattered the window, and some wild stuff.
No, they didn't.
Yeah. You're catching on now. Last year I'd have had you believe in it.
I totally bit. I bit on it.
All right. No, I thought I had an emergency situation for a second. Anyway, Adam, just so I know where we're at, where are you guys? Josh, are you on the same spot you were at on the Pacers earlier today?
Yes.
Okay. So am I. It's really, Adam, I mentioned this to Josh. For me, I feel like the high 5K guys at point guard on DraftKings, I think you can really play the ownership game with them. Just in terms of how many of them there are, whether it be Teague, Collison, Jackson, Rubio. Some of them just have way higher ownership than others, and Collison right now is certainly one of them.
Yeah, I like Collison, but I will take Rubio. If I were making one lineup and ending up in that price range, and we have Rubio projected for half the ownership, just put Rubio in.
Exactly. I feel the exact same way. Okay. Anything else that you missed? I mean, if you guys touched on it, I don't need to go back.
Yeah, no, we got all of it.
All right, cool. And we don't have an update on Turner yet, right?
Right. At least not that I've seen.
Okay. Orlando and Chicago. Thanks again, Josh. Orlando and Chicago, 8.5 point favorites. The Magic at home, 217 total. Adam, they're playing solid defense, man. Like third best defensive rating in the league since 2019 commenced. They're also averaging less than 100 possessions per 48. So there's that. They've got this home matchup with the Chicago Bulls, and they are almost double-digit favorites here. But let's start with them, because while they're playing better basketball, it hasn't exactly been generated offensively. And you have somebody like Vooch, who, as we just talked about, those point guards that many are grouped into the same tier. You've got Towns, you have Jokic, you have Vooch, you have Drummond, you have Griffin on DraftKings. A lot of them in that 9K to 10.5K range. Where does Vooch fall into the range for you?
Yeah, I mean, he's right there. I like Jokic more. I like Griffin. When you factor in these $900 less, I like Griffin more. So Vooch is a secondary option for me in that regard. I like Drummond a little bit more. But still just a really good spot for him. And obviously my favorite play from the Magic. It's a good spot. He does everything for this team. You're getting 33, 34 minutes in competitive games. So, I assume he'll also be the lowest owned out of that group. So you don't have to do a lot to be overweight, I would think.
Yeah. Someone said Lafayette has the shits. I've been there. If that was it, I'd have casually walked away. I wouldn't have hopped up out of my chair. But that, honestly, now that I think about it, it's like the Anthony Davis has gone to the locker room and then returned 5-10 minutes later. It does certainly seem like that. Not the case, but I would tell you if it was. I promise.
I would have believed that. I didn't believe someone jumped through your window.
Well, because I wouldn't hesitate to tell you if that's what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah. So you have Vooch right up there. He is the price point. It's amazing to see him $300 less expensive than Jokic on DraftKings.
Yeah, and I think that kind of speaks to how egregious their price tag on Jokic is. But
that's a very good point. Very good point. Yeah, and you know what? The 9K price point on Drummond is even a little bit low. I don't think it's unrealistic to say Drummond and Vooch should be priced the same.
Right. Yeah, so I just pulled up my center position on DraftKings, and I have all 5 of these guys as 5 of, my better plays on the slate, regardless of position. But I have it Jokic, Griffin, Towns, assuming he plays, Drummond, Vooch.
Okay. Right, and that's pretty reasonable. Myles Turner is out. O-U-T out. No Myles Turner. And Tyreke Evans, who was supposed to go in for an MRI, is actually active. So you have that. So now Domantas Sabonis becomes 100% owned. He won't be, but he should be.
Yep, especially where he's a power forward, which I think is FanDuel and DraftKings.
Which is insane. I mean, jeepers, creepers, man. Now it gets out of control. Pretty much, I don't like to use the term free square, but if you're not playing Sabonis at that price point, you're asking for a world of hurt. I mean, how bad of a game does he have to God, I don't know.
I mean, to put it in the context, I had Turner projected in, I had Sabonis projected for 24 minutes, and I had him in 24% of my initial lineups.
Exactly. That's the crazy part, right? Like you had him coming off the bench with Turner active, and you still get that. On the season, Myles Turner this year is averaging 1.29 DraftKings points per minute. That's pretty good. And if he
Adam, I got you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I don't know. He just died on that one. I bet he punted his laptop like he normally does.
I was checking to see if I'd come unplugged or something. There he is.
Oh, but now I look like a ghost. That's
Going great. So, Pacers, we can't get away from them, huh?
Got it, man.
It's the only thing you and I are supposed to talk about today.
Josh, this has been a frustrating day for me, man.
Evidently.
Let me tell you. Well, I've been talking to you all damn day.
Let
me get any better. So, Adam, all I was saying, thanks again, Josh.
Yeah.
Almost 1.3 DraftKings points per minute for Sabonis just on the season alone. That's not taking into consideration the Pelicans' rebounding troubles, less Anthony Davis, all of this, and really poor defense in an up-tempo game. It's just really hard to make the argument against him is all.
Yep, totally agree. And also now you get what I assume is $3,000 Kyle O'Quinn for 16 minutes.
Oh, man. Oh, no. Kyle O'Quinn in this spot has routinely produced. And I remember last time I got him at 3% ownership. You remember this. It was actually when Turner was out. And I think he only played 15 minutes and he had 35 fantasy points. But then the next day he plays 12 minutes or 15 and does. So it's tough to say. What type of interest do you have in O'Quinn?
Enough where I'll, have some in tournaments. I'll probably have less O'Quinn than Sabonis. We've seen time and time again that the way they run their rotation is that Sabonis gets his, 30 to 32 or whatever at center, and O'Quinn backs him up. We don't see O'Quinn plus Sabonis where O'Quinn's suddenly playing 20 minutes or something. But
for sure,
they're also both cheap enough is the thing. O'Quinn is $3K and Sabonis, 5,500 using DraftKings as a reference. And they both have power forward eligibility. So normally I'm not a big proponent of rostering two guys at the same position. I hate the thought process normally of, I can pay 8,500 and just get all of those center minutes because you to win a tournament, you really need a lot of points from every position. But O'Quinn can play 16 minutes and give us 30 points a reasonable amount of the time. Sabonis can play 32 minutes and, give us 45. So I don't even mind playing them together.
I think that's a really important point to make, and a differentiation. That's a great point because people always ask me this all the time. I had a question yesterday in Slack. So would you say normally that you're not okay? Because I said yesterday I was all right with playing Curry and Cousins together. Normally I'm not huge on it, but they said so should I normally just set a group and have only one? And it's slate specific on stuff like that. Granted, different positions. We're not talking about mutually exclusive positions in terms of the center position. But as you pointed out, when two players are cheap enough, you don't need the monster numbers from both of them to get it done because hopefully you're getting that throughout the rest of your lineup. And not to mention, we're also talking, I think this is an important point to make as well. We're also talking about two guys that on a per minute basis are much better than most value guys that you would play.
Right. It's that and the salaries for me. Like if O'Quinn was 4K,
Right.
I wouldn't want to do it because even if
Right.
O'Quinn gets his 2 points per minute and gets 30 points, it's whatever at 4K. Like it's good, but it's not earth shattering. But if he does that at 3K, that's obviously more than fine. And then you have Sabonis who can still go out there and get his full minutes.
Right, for sure. All right, let's move back to Orlando and Chicago. Is there anything else for the Magic that you like?
Pretty much just Vooch. If you get this from Aaron Gordon or DJ Augustine, I think that's fine. But Vooch is the guy that I like the most.
All right. I think Terrence Ross gets back to seeing regular minutes today. I don't know if you've noticed, but they've been involved in a lot of blowout wins recently. Like, they just beat.
They've been beating the shit out of everybody.
Yep. Yeah, like they just beat Charlotte by almost 40. They beat New Orleans by 30 on the dot. They beat Atlanta by 16. They beat Milwaukee by 20. Like this is all in a row. Minnesota by 10. They're winning a lot of games by a wide margin. So Ross, and we discuss this all the time, a lot of times the sixth man is the one that takes the brunt of the damage in blowouts. Look, this game could certainly blow out as well, but I'm not predicting that it will. If it doesn't, I think Ross goes back to seeing his 28 minutes again. All right. Chicago. Otto Porter's played 34 minutes or more in all of his games with the Bulls, yet he's had one good game, one decent game, one really good game. What do you make of this Bulls squad against a very much improved Orlando defense?
Yeah, I hate the matchup because of how good Orlando defense, how slow they play. Chicago, we know, also doesn't really play that fast. I will say that I like Lauri Markkanen just because his numbers without Portis and Parker have been insane. We're still getting center minutes from him. Without them on the floor since the start of January, he has a 20.7% rebounding percentage, 25.7% usage rate. So I still think that he's a fine play. Like I have him a little bit ahead of Julius Randle. I have him behind Blake, to put that into context. Otto Porter, because the small forward position is so bad, I have no issues with him. But, again, it's more secondary options for me, I think.
Yeah, me too. And maybe Porter because the position's bad, but I'm not really getting anybody here. Markkanen's been excellent. He's just been so good, but can you prioritize him at that price? I think the answer is probably no.
Especially now that Sabonis just opened up.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's move on then. We'll talk San Antonio and Toronto. I'd mentioned DeRozan earlier in the show, Adam. I think it's pretty helpful that now, do I know if DeRozan was actually playing injured? No, I haven't spoken to him, but I think that he was not at 100. It just did not look like he was totally right, and seemed to be getting better as the games went on, but he hasn't played in literally 10 days, right? 10 days. The last time he played was the 12th. I like that. I also like that he's 7,300. I don't love the fact that Derek White is expected to return because DeRozan has actually performed quite a bit better with White off the floor. But going north of the border to face your former team in Toronto, I expect DeRozan to play, if it's close, which it should be, upwards of 38 minutes in regulation. We've seen him plenty of times do that in close games. 7,300 for me, despite him not looking great recently, and he's gotten the rest. 7,300, I just can't really get away from.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. Especially DraftKings, you have shooting guard and small forward, which is nice. Yeah. But obviously, shooting guard on FanDuel as well. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I don't love the matchup. I'm still a little concerned just because he's been so bad for so long now, by his standards, basically a point per minute guy. Mm-hmm. But the price tag is basically as low as you're ever going to get it for DeRozan, with it just hovering in this low $7,000 range.
Honestly, that's really what it comes down to for me. And then if Doncic is out, it's gonna thin this position out even further. To me, I think this is one of those spots where I say, yeah, I voiced all those concerns as you did as well, but I'm pretty much going to not ignore them, but say he's cheap enough to where I'm okay with rolling the dice on him, because you look $100. God, I can't remember the last time he's been that cheap, and he's been pretty cheap, but he's getting down there. I'm looking at it now to see the last time he was. So he's the cheapest he's been since. This is the cheapest he's been all season long. This is his lowest price point of the nope, 7,200 on the second game of the year. So this is the lowest, cheapest he's been since October 20th, which to me, is pretty nice. And I'm just going to go ahead and throw that dart because we know he does have the same ceiling. Hell, he was playing poorly when he had that 62 fantasy point triple-double against Toronto earlier this year. Not that means much, but I like it coming back to Toronto, having 10 days rest. Anywhere else for you in San Antonio that you're looking?
Yeah, I like Aldridge too. Actually,
wow. Hold on. I'm sorry. Kyle O'Quinn is expected to start.
That's weird.
It is. I kind of love it because I think Sabonis could actually see less ownership than he would have, meaning like down from 100 to 80.
Right. Yeah, but O'Quinn goes from 15 to like 90.
I know. Yeah, that's tough. Do you want to touch? If you want quickly to touch on that, I don't want to take up all the time, but it's kind of an important piece of information.
Yeah, I mean, so what, like 20 minutes for O'Quinn and 28 for Sabonis? Would be my guess.
Like I wouldn't even be surprised if O'Quinn plays a rotation in the first and second quarter, or third quarter, and doesn't come back.
Yeah, the good thing is since they're so cheap, it doesn't make a big deal. If it doesn't make a big difference if you're wrong by a couple of minutes. Like if O'Quinn plays 18 minutes, does what you just said, plays like 9 and 9, he's still going to beat a bunch of my lineups. If I project Sabonis for 28 and he plays 32, he was still going to beat a bunch of my lineups. Doesn't really matter.
Yep. Right. Yeah, exactly. It's a good way to look at it. Let's move back to San Antonio. I cut you off when you were discussing something about the Spurs.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say that if we ignore the position, which obviously we're not, I actually like Aldridge more than DeRozan. I think when you factor in how deep power forward and center are compared to shooting guard, small forward, it makes it really close. But, since the start of January, 1.25 fantasy points per minute for Aldridge. I have him in for 34 minutes here. So, I like him as well.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. No problem with LaMarcus Aldridge here. He's also inexpensive when you're looking at $7,600 on DraftKings for a guy who's played so unbelievably well. 78 on FanDuel. You're also getting him at a discount. I mean, he's $800 less expensive than Markkanen. That's a pretty significant. He's the same price as Montrezl Harrell, who's facing Memphis. I like that as well. I like DeRozan a little bit more, but understand both of those. Toronto, Kawhi Leonard is 9,500 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, you're getting him at 9,400. We'll get to Siakam and Lowry and the like afterwards, but let's start with Kawhi Leonard.
I never really get a lot of Kawhi. Obviously you can make the argument for him because of how bad small forward is, and San Antonio's defense has actually been really bad for a while now too. One of the worst defensive teams since the start of January. But, again, there's just guys in his price range that I think give you a higher ceiling than Kawhi. So if I end up with some, that's fine, but I don't expect him to really be a priority for me.
Yeah. I see the same. Josh made, I think, a pretty reasonable argument this morning, though, that on FanDuel at 9,500 with that position being as weak as it is, Kawhi Leonard is a lot more appealing than he would be elsewhere.
Yeah, and you also don't have Luka, DeRozan.
Exactly.
As we talked about.
Right, exactly. So I think Kawhi is a better play on FanDuel, where 9,500 is perfectly reasonable, and it's not a great position. 19% projected ownership on FanDuel with our awesemo.com ownership projections, which, by the way, if you'd like to check them out, if you'd like to check out anything on our site, Adam's Deeper Dive today. Actually, we switch off every day, so I'll have it on Monday. Actually, do you have it? Do you do it on Saturday?
Yeah.
You do? Okay, yeah. So we'll do it 3 days a week, and then we have Fantasy Cruncher out on the lineup builder. Awesemo, Alex Baker, you know who he is, his site, his name, his logo, his projections, his rankings, and so much else. All of our projections, the ownership projections, everything for golf, NASCAR, you name it, we've got it at awesemo.com. And you can get 50% off your first month, half off your first month subscription by simply using the promo code Deeper Dive when you check out and select your plan. That's Deeper Dive, one word. Click join now on the homepage. It's very simple. After that, you just select your plan. Select the add-on for Fantasy Cruncher if you'd like. Oh, we got sports betting information too, which is something I would suggest everyone gets into that plays DFS. Select your plan, put in your info. It takes 2 seconds. Click have a coupon. You click that, Deeper Dive, put that in, one word. check out, you are done. You got 50% off your first month. And then you can come join us in the Slack chat around the clock. You know where to find us. And we hope you do at awesomeo.com. Deeper dive, one word. See you there. Anything else for Toronto, Adam? Pascal Siakam?
Yeah, Siakam's okay. I don't really see getting there with all that much. I think Jeremy Lin's kind of interesting at a cheap price tag, especially where he has shooting guard eligibility. I expect him to go basically completely overlooked, but he did pick up 25 minutes in that first game. Obviously, Kawhi was out, but you had OG Anunoby play 36 minutes. You had Powell play 30. So there are certainly minutes that can go other places without them being taken from Lin. Not a priority play, just someone that I thought was worth pointing out because there's a ton of cheap guys at shooting guard, and I expect him to kind of go overlooked a little bit.
I'm with you. I was surprised that Siakam was popping as much as he was. Like, I don't dislike Siakam, but I think at that price point, it's not like he's an incredible value. He's a very good play and he's looked great, but with Leonard back in the lineup with this team healthy, it's not really as appealing as it would have been. Kyle Lowry, I keep just seeing so much on him, but the truth is, unless Kawhi's out, I'm really not that interested. Do I think he can have a fine game? Sure. And as you pointed out, San Antonio's defense has really struggled since the start of the new year. There's no denying that. But even at a relatively weak point guard position, I just continue to find myself either going up from Lowry or going down from Lowry. And that's where I continue to end up. What about you?
Yeah, same boat for me. I mean, even if you look at more recent numbers and look at his time alongside Kawhi since January 1st, you're still at a 17.2% usage rate. The assist percentage is still down. It's not like they have really gotten more acclimated to playing alongside each other. Like at the beginning of the season, we had DeRozan taking a lot of work from Aldridge, and then it evened out as the season went on, and now Aldridge has gone back ahead of DeRozan. That just isn't happening in Toronto. And,
right.
The price tag's low enough where Lowry's fine, but if you want to use that kind of logic, then just obviously a different position, but play someone like DeRozan, play the other guys in that price range that just have more upside than Lowry does.
Right. No doubt. I'm on the same boat, man. And I think it makes a lot of sense. By the way, Kevin Huerter is ruled out, and that is perfect time to transition. Is there anything else you like in Toronto, or shall we move to Atlanta, Detroit?
No, Atlanta, Detroit's good.
Let's make it happen. We've got Atlanta at home. By the way, remember we talked about this last time. Atlanta 8.5-point home favorites last game. I mean, was there any bigger lock for them just to lose outright? I mean, come on. And the best part is the Knicks break. Wow, is there a transformer behind you? What was that?
It was like a motorcycle. Yeah, it was like a motorcycle.
Okay, I thought someone was gonna crush through your hotel room and eat you alive. I think it was just louder in my headphones. But with Atlanta, like the Knicks, what did they break an 18-game losing streak and they beat them by 16 or something? But now Detroit's favored by 5 points, 220 to 1.5 total. Huge pace up spot for Detroit. I mean, massive, right? If you were to just take, I think we've both been using just the start of January as a reference point now. It's pretty nice. It gives us almost 2 months, maybe 1.5 months given the All-Star break, which is, again, pretty nice. If you look at this, the Detroit Pistons are playing at the second slowest pace, 96.8 possessions per 48 since the January 1st, while Atlanta leads the league in pace on the year and is still playing at a top 5 pace over that aforementioned span. They're also 4th or 27th in defensive rating. So let's start with Detroit, and then we will move over to Atlanta. We've got Blake. We've got Drummond. We've got, believe it or not, I said this to Josh today, as much as I don't want to, and I think now that value's opening up, it changes a little bit, but especially earlier in the day, Luke Kennard to me was someone that I had as a strong value simply because he came off the bench in the first 2 games without Bullock, played 29 minutes, and then started and played 36 in regulation. Assuming he starts again, I'm going to put him around 32, 33 minutes. And even someone like him can fall face first into some peripherals against the Atlanta Hawks. So talk to me about the Pistons. Start where you'd like.
Yeah, well, I'll just quickly throw Wayne Ellington into that mix as well.
Sure.
Not a huge fan of playing him and Kennard together just because they kind of do similar things. Like there's only so many points to go around outside of Griffin, Drummond, and then whatever Jackson does. And their rotation, I think, still hasn't really solved itself yet. Like if you look at last game, you got like 28 minutes from Ish Smith and 12 from Galloway, 12 from Brown. I don't necessarily think that continues in that manner. So there's certainly some risk of any one of those guys losing some minutes, but it is a great matchup. You have 4K Luke Kennard, you have 3,800 Ellington. So as far as value goes, you can look to either of those guys, both shooting guard, small forward. In the front court, I think it's kind of interesting to look at because, Blake, it's obviously a really good spot. Atlanta plays at a really fast pace. They don't play well defensively. The one thing that Griffin has kind of disappointed in this year from a fantasy standpoint is his rebounding. And Atlanta's actually been pretty decent at limiting opponent rebounds, but that's not where Blake's been producing anyway. So I'm not really interested I'm not concerned about that all that much. The fact that he has almost a 33% usage rate and almost a 30% assist percentage is much more important to me than what he's doing from a rebound standpoint. And then with Drummond, I'm not really concerned about it either, because while Atlanta has allowed a surprisingly low number of rebounds per game for a team that plays as fast as they do, they've still allowed like the 7th most offensive rebounds per game to opponents since the start of January. So they've still been vulnerable in that one area that you really look for Andre Drummond, since such a big part of his offense comes on offensive putbacks. It's obviously concerning if he's not going to get them, but Atlanta hasn't shown the ability to stop that. So I really just think that they're both excellent plays here.
Yeah, let me add to that for a second. All of those are strong points, but something else to consider here is you're talking about a Atlanta team that is unbelievably turnover prone. And while normally you'd say, what does that have to do with anything with Andre Drummond? Andre Drummond is phenomenal for a big man when it comes to grabbing steals. He leads the entire league in steals per game among centers. He leads all centers in steals per game. He's also top 10 in blocks. That makes him, what it does? It makes it so maybe he doesn't have the 22 rebound game, but he's still capable of going out there racking up 3 steals and 3 blocks. We've seen it happen far too often. The Atlanta Hawks have been blocked 4th most in the league, and they have allowed the most steals in the league. Yes, that matters for Andre Drummond.
Yeah, no, it's another really good point.
Okay, Blake, Andre Drummond. How much do you have of them at the moment?
In that initial crunch, Griffin basically hit my 60% cap, and then Drummond came in at like 20%.
Okay. And how much Vooch?
11.
11. Okay, and I'm just going to ask you because we're on a roll now. How much Jokic?
60.
And how much Towns?
2.
Okay.
60% Noah also.
Oh, I love it. All right. Are you assuming that Jaren Jackson will play, won't play, or do you not care because you expect Noah to get his 22 minutes regardless?
I have him projected for 25 minutes with Jackson in. So.
Woo! All right. Looking forward to getting to that one. Just to recap, though, Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, Luke Kennard. I do think Kennard how many minutes do you have Kennard at?
32. I have Kennard and Ellington at 32. And so Jackson.
Okay, so you have Bruce Brown playing that 12-minute rotation, first and third quarter again?
I have Brown at 12. I have Galloway at 12. Again, I don't know that's exactly how it plays out, but that's as good a guess as anything. Like Ish Smith could lose 6 minutes or something, and you get 18 for Brown.
And I would also say this. It's more likely, I'm not saying it's likely, but it's more likely that Ellington were to lose minutes than Herter, because Herter, even off the bench, was getting 29 minutes a game.
Kennard.
Sorry, what did I say? Herter?
Herter.
Yeah, Kennard. Kennard was already getting those minutes, so I think he's pretty safe in terms of playing time. And then as far as Reggie Jackson goes, as you know, I like him a lot more when Ish Smith is out, and we saw a lot of that this season and recently. But I still don't have an issue with Reggie Jackson there if he's going to play around 30 minutes. You could do a whole lot worse. Massive pace-up spot. I don't hate him here. All right, Atlanta, Adam. Let's talk about the Hawks, who have a significant pace-down spot against Detroit, but also will not have Kevin Herter, and that's about it.
Yeah, a couple of mispriced guys here though. For value, you have Kent Bazemore at 4,200 with Herter out. I think that there was a chance Bazemore, who played, like 26 and a half minutes last game, I think there was a chance he would have gone back to his, 20 to 22 minutes with Jalen Adams being back. But with Herter out, that opens up another close to 30 minutes. So I have Bazemore at 28 minutes right now. I think, it could be a little bit lower. But somewhere in that 26 to 28 minute range, I think you see similar from DeAndre Bembry at just $3,300. Bembry really not a great fantasy producer. Over the last month and a half, he's averaged 0.7 fantasy points per minute. For the season, he's at 0.8. Bazemore, since coming back from his injury, has nearly a 26% usage rate and has been a fantasy point per minute guy. So I like Bazemore more than I like Bembry, but Bembry's cheap enough where I'm fine with either one of them. If I get some Trae Young, I think that's fine. I have him in for 34 minutes. He's obviously been very good lately. And then one thing to point out, which again, in the context of the entire slate, I don't know that it's not something that I'm going to have in a lot of my lineups, but Alex Len and Dwayne Dedmon played 4 to 6 minutes alongside each other against the Knicks in that last game. Now they're facing that huge Detroit front court where we've seen teams do that more frequently anyway. I don't think it would be surprising. I have Len at 20 minutes. I have Dedmon at 26. I don't think it would be surprising just to see a couple of extra minutes here for Alex Len again.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. We had people tweeting us a few games ago, Alex Len, great call, guys, in the first half. Did you see those? And then in the second half, it's Alex Len, never again.
Yeah, because he 5x'd in the first quarter, and then I think he finished at 5x.
Yeah. Yo, how about some Boban yesterday, man? He is the king. He is just the king. I love it. Oh my God, it's a beautiful thing. How many minutes did he end up playing? Did you check?
7?
Yeah, he got a good run. I don't think he closed, but man, he played 9.5 straight minutes to open up the game.
Yeah, it was insane. I didn't know what to expect from him, obviously, and just kind of plugged and played him. But yeah, that was good.
I mentioned to Josh, I was like, it's possible that he plays 28 minutes and it comes out of nowhere. It's also possible that Bolden plays a ton of minutes and we don't, but it was cool. Brett Brown showing that willingness, and you know what? Boban handled it quite well. I've got to say he handled it quite well. And Amir Johnson never left the bench. So that happened. Anything else for Atlanta? Actually, I guess I'll ask you this. Are you prioritizing any value here? Quote unquote value.
Bazemore.
Okay. Yeah. The whole Bembry thing, Josh and I went off about this today. What's your ownership look like on a guy like DeAndre Bembry?
On DraftKings, he came in at, I don't know, probably 30.
Okay. Then you have a little bit more interest in him than I do.
Sorry, 50.
50. Woo! All right. 50% Bembry. So you are prioritizing Bembry then?
Apparently, yeah. Just because he's 3,300.
What are your minutes at?
That was also before O'Quinn and Sabonis, though.
Okay. What do you have his minutes at, though? Because go ahead and answer. Okay. Yeah, 28. I do too. And I'm just not overly confident about it. And I not getting the backup point guard minutes. And even when he was terrible. So we expect him to. Do you expect Bazemore to start?
I was assuming Bembry starts and they keep Bazemore off the bench.
So Bembry starts alongside Prince, huh?
Okay. That's my assumption.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then I'd be singing a different song. I had Bazemore starting, and if Bazemore starts, yeah, I'd expect Bembry to get the backup minutes, some at the 2 and some at the 3. But I don't know how many minutes Vince Carter gets, and I don't know really what we see out of Bembry. But
yeah, right. I actually just pulled Bembry back to 26 just because I don't know either. It kind of just feels like projecting him in that range is going to get me enough without my entire night riding on Bembry.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because when you're putting him at 28, you're getting a ton of Bembry, and he has just been so inclined to do nothing in the minutes that he gets. Not saying he will, but it's happened more times than not.
And there are just enough options on this slate. If there wasn't anyone else that I thought was a good value play, then sure. But ideally, I'd like to be rotating a lot of these guys in, because I don't think that many of them are that good, but there's just so many of them that a couple of them, should do fine.
Yep, I'm with you. All right, do you want to move on to the next one here?
Yep.
All right, New York Knicks, Minnesota. Well, Karl Anthony Towns is questionable. So, by the way, questionable for rest. Am I seeing that properly? Am I seeing that correctly?
I had seen undisclosed.
I saw one say rest. Like, oh yeah, we didn't have the All-Star break.
Well, he hadn't just gotten in a car accident before the All-Star break.
Oh, he got in a car accident. Well,
apparently got in a car accident yesterday.
That explains it. Yeah, I'm seeing this now. That I totally meant. I was gonna say that would seem a little strange. Like, oh yeah, we're just gonna rest him one more day.
The first game of his career that he misses is rest. The first game after
exactly. Exactly. It's just so strange. Anyway, that definitely now I'm starting to see the light. So we'll see. On the way to the airport, he's still okay. Wait, he's still got there through a commercial flight, saying he may not be 100%. I wish I had more details. Do we have any more details on this?
Not that I've seen. My assumption is that he plays, just because he always plays, and because if he made it there anyway, it's probably them just being like, we want to make sure that he doesn't wake up with like a hurt back or something.
He's just a little shaken up. That's
yeah.
All right. Saunders didn't have, Ray says in Slack, Saunders didn't have any info on the accident, so he had to put something on the injury report, hence rest. Interesting. All right. Well, I'm assuming he plays. Aldridge is available to play with that illness, by the way. And Darius Miller's ruled out for the Pelicans. But anyway, the New York Knicks on the road, or at home, I'm sorry. They are not favored, as they shouldn't be. They're
Bazemore starting. Good call.
Okay, so we got Bazemore starting. I think Bembry gets the backup 2 and the 3. But if Carter plays 20 minutes, I think it's very possible that Bembry does not get the 28, 29, 30 minutes. But what do I
know? No, I just went ahead and I bumped Bazemore from 26 to 28. I cut Bembry from 26 to 24. I think that, again, you could see more. You could see Justin Anderson steal minutes. You can see Carter steal minutes. You could see Jalen Adams play more than the 16 minutes that I currently have him at. There's a lot of ways to go sideways.
Right, and that's my concern. With Adam, if Adams wasn't playing, I would have probably put Bembry at 30, to be honest with you. But he is, so I'm a little bit concerned there. Let's talk about Minnesota and the Knicks. You've got a total of 222. We'll start with the New York Knicks because there's not a whole lot to talk about here. Like, do you really want to guess how many minutes Dennis Smith's going to play at 7K and like 76 on FanDuel with Emmanuel Mudiay back? You know what? I'll let you break it down because we still got some games to get through.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the Knicks with guys coming back. This team's been a nightmare to talk about and to try and roster guys anyway. Now we have a 9-game slate with Mudiay coming back. Fizdale said he would like to play him alongside Smith. We've also seen that Fizdale wanting to do things doesn't usually lead to Fizdale doing those things because I don't know, but it doesn't happen. So I'm taking that with a grain of salt. I don't know. Maybe they go 24-24. Maybe they actually play alongside each other. I have no idea. Point being that it's perfect timing because Dennis Smith Jr.'s price has gone up anyway to where I don't love him as much as I would have, in prior games. If you want cheap Mitchell Robinson, that's fine, but there's other cheap guys that we like. I guess the one guy that I'm getting the most of is Luke Cornett because he's 3,500 on DraftKings still. I'm not 100% sure he starts. I mean, Hazonia was starting before his injury. Cornett played well in the last game when he did start. If he starts, I'll throw him in for 24 to 26 minutes. If he comes off the bench, I want no part of him. But outside of that, I'm just really not getting anything from this team.
Yeah, pretty much. How much Cornett do you got right now? I understand the whole O'Quinn thing is going to change things, but your initial crunch, what did you get?
My initial crunch, I had him at 26 minutes, which was a little higher than I felt really confident in, and I got 48%.
Okay, yeah, if you put him at like 27, 28, you'd be hitting that 60 cap really quickly. But I think you're right.
Starting.
There it is. All right, so we've got Smith, Dotson, Knox, Cornett and Jordan. Wait, what do you see Mudiay doing here?
I have no idea. Like
right? Like none at all.
Right.
Okay, yeah. All right. So Cornett's the guy. Outside of that, no thanks. I'm not paying for Kevin Knox. I'm assuming you have no intentions of doing so either, so I'll move on. You can cut me off if you want to, but I'm assuming I will not be cut off because you're not playing Kevin Knox. Minnesota, I like Jeff Teague just based on the minutes, but he is going to be popular, and we know that on DraftKings specifically. It is a perfectly reasonable matchup against this Knicks front court. But you're going to get him. Look, we're assuming Towns plays, so you have that. If he doesn't play, everything changes. If he doesn't play, Gibson becomes a very good play. Saric becomes a really good play. But I'm assuming he is playing right now.
Yeah, I'm assuming he plays too. If he doesn't, I would also add that Gorgie Jang should get,
he's out.
Rotation. Yeah,
he's out. He's out already.
No, Jang is.
Gorgie Jang was ruled out, I think, yesterday. Yeah.
Okay, I missed that then. That makes sense.
I missed it today, and Josh told me, so now we can keep the cycle going, and I'll tell you.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so yeah, if Towns is out, Gibson. Sorry, I agree with you on Saric, obviously getting more minutes as well. I assume Towns plays. If he does, I like him. Again, I like Jokic a little bit more, and it's just tough where Towns is the most expensive center. But I still think that he's a really good play. The one New York has good center defenders in Jordan and Robinson, but Towns is just such a versatile player that I don't really care about his individual matchups. And New York as a team is just not a good defensive team. So I would still like Towns. I'm with you on Teague. I think he's a good play. I think he's similar to Collison. I think he's similar to Rubio. Wiggins and Saric, if you get there, I think is fine, especially, Wiggins at shooting guard, small forward, bad positions.
All right. I'm always tempted to get a sprinkle of Mitchell Robinson in there just because. Do you know what his block rate is? If you had to guess.
It leads the league per 36, right?
10.1%. Crazy.
Is that higher or lower than his fouls per 36?
Oh, it's probably significantly lower, but still, he's also, blocks per 36, not block rate, but blocks per 36 leads the league. Like it's crazy the amount of shots that he blocks. And if you just watch him, it's obvious he doesn't bite on pump fakes. Like he's actually really good in post defense. He's got a long way to go, but I like this kid, man. I really do. The minutes are all over the place, but if you get a rogue 26, 27-minute game from Mitchell Robinson, especially against this Minnesota front court, anything can happen. All right. Do you want to move on, or is there anything else here you want to talk about?
Keep it going.
All right. Let's talk about Memphis and the Clippers. Talk to me about Noah. We had a long discussion on this morning. Like I assumed he would get 22 minutes regardless. You have him at 25. Fair enough, man.
Yeah, I said 25. I actually have him at 24 now that I have it in front of me, but same idea. So in the last game that Valanciunas didn't play, we got 30 minutes from Noah, and some of those minutes came alongside Ivan Robb, which is nice because obviously it just helps to solidify Noah's minutes. So I'm not projecting him for those 30, but he's played 18 and 20 in the two games where Robb's played a handful and then Valanciunas has played a good amount. So I think seeing mid-20s from Noah is a pretty reasonable expectation here. It's obviously a really good matchup. It's a really nice price point. On FanDuel, there's a pretty significant opportunity cost, which makes it harder to get to Noah. But on DraftKings, where you can roster the two centers or more, depending on who you're talking about, and if they have multi-position eligibility, I don't really see much reason to be getting away from Noah.
One thing I find really interesting is if Jaren Jackson's out, you just mentioned this, but we've seen that JB Bickerstaff has no issue playing Rob alongside Noah. And if that is the case, I mean, yes, Chandler Parsons is playing, but he's been out for 122 days, literally. I wouldn't be surprised to see them play decent minutes alongside each other. They played 13, 14, 15, 16, like 18 minutes alongside each other on the 9th in that game you're referencing.
Yeah, and Jaren Jackson played in that one, right?
And that's a lot. So, I mean, that's crazy. So
yeah, and so for me, like the way that I'm approaching that is that I don't expect that rotation to happen again. If it does, if I expected that, I would have 100% Noah, obviously.
Yeah.
But the takeaway for me is that I don't think I'm over projecting him at 24 because there's multiple ways for him to get there. One of those ways would just be that Rob doesn't play as many minutes as I have him projected for. Another way would be that Rob plays multiple minutes alongside Noah. It's just it feels relatively safe for me to give him mid-20s in minutes.
I agree. That's really all I have from this game. If you have anything else, I'm happy to listen.
No, I mean, Avery Bradley and DeLon Wright is low owned value is fine, I think, but Noah's the guy that I'm getting the most of by a lot.
Well, the thing is, earlier today, DeLon Wright's still projected at 17% ownership on DraftKings, which is pretty wild. That's pretty high. I think Josh made a good point earlier today saying that if DeLon Wright is projected to be around 20%, just go with Avery Bradley.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything for the Clippers? I don't.
I don't believe so.
Okay. We got 2 games to get through. I don't think it'll take us much time. By the way, before you head out, hit that thumbs up, that like button if you appreciate the content and want to see more. It really does help us out a lot, and we greatly appreciate it. Also, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always know when content's dropping next. And stick around. Live Before Lock is coming up next, going to take you to 7 p.m. Let's close it out here, Adam. Dallas and Denver. Jokic way too cheap against a Maxi Kleber and Dwight Powell-led front court. Aside from that, well, we've got the Doncic questionable. I'm going to let you run with this because for me, it's Jokic, maybe a little Paul Millsap because he's cheap. Maybe he'll get some minutes. And then Doncic, if he's active, go ahead. I know you liked a little bit of Dwight Powell too.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty. Doncic and Jokic, the huge priorities for me. I'm with you on Millsap, on DraftKings in particular being too cheap. Same with Jamal Murray. And then Powell, I don't think I'll have a lot anymore because of the Indiana news. The fact that he does not have power forward eligibility makes him less appealing. I do like Noah more than him also. But, getting 26 to 27 minutes from, basically a point per minute guy and Powell at a cheap price tag, I think is perfectly fine. If Doncic were to sit, then, Tim Hardaway should see plenty of ball handling and usage. But for now, I'm assuming that Doncic plays.
Yeah, me too. Quickly, if he does sit, who are your guys other than Hardaway? Are you playing like a Brunson or?
Yeah, Brunson / Burke.
Yeah.
Probably a hot hand situation.
Burke will become pretty interesting in that event. But
Yeah.
I think Doncic plays as well. And then with Denver, I just don't really have any intention right now need or desire to figure out the wings in the backcourt with Gary Harris back.
Yeah, no question there.
But love Jokic. You love Jokic as well, right? Just so we're clear.
Yeah, even his minutes have been up lately. Obviously Harris back, but even with Millsap and Plumlee there, we had been seeing 36 minutes in competitive games from Jokic, which is really good to see.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll close it out here. OKC and Utah, Thunder 4-point favorites, 226.5 total. I just don't see myself getting to a ton of George and Westbrook. I like Rubio in this game. I do because of low ownership. What do you got on OKC and Utah, man?
Yeah, I mean, whatever George or Westbrook I get to, I'm fine with, especially on FanDuel where, it's harder to get small forwards that you like. Paul George has been playing out of his mind. We talked about it a lot, that his minutes are being staggered with Westbrook. So whatever I get of those two, I'm perfectly happy with. Point guard at the top is pretty weak, like we talked about before. So in my initial crunch, I actually got a lot of Westbrook, but I think that will probably be different on this one just because of how my rosters change. But Rubio is the one that I really like from this game on the Utah side. If he's projected for low ownership, I mean, we're seeing him play, normally around 32 minutes in competitive games. But since coming back from his injury, which now is, I believe, 13 games, he has a 26.3% usage rate to go with a 33% assist percentage. He's averaged 1.07 fantasy points per minute. Huge pace up spot against Oklahoma City. I think that, if he's going to go overlooked, he's a really good play.
Agreed, especially just given the fact that Jeff Teague is coming in. I just use DraftKings, for example. Teague coming in at 22%, Collison at 22%. And then you have Rubio, who is down at 11%. So projected to have half of that ownership. I'll take that all day long. And look, Utah might not be playing at a crawling pace, but they're still OKC leads the league in pace of play since the start of January. So it is a significant pace up spot, and I like that a lot. All right, we've got to go and hand it over to the Live Before Lock boys. Anybody else for Utah that you like here?
Gobert is fine, but again, center is just absolutely stacked.
And no interest really in Mitchell, right?
No.
All right. As always, we appreciate you guys hanging out. It's good to be back. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Or no, sorry, Monday. God, the All-Star break threw me off. Monday on the Deeper Dive. Adam will be here with EMAC tomorrow, though, correct?
Yep.
All right. As always, thanks for watching. Good luck tonight. Hit that thumbs up button before you leave. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll see you back here after the weekend. Peace.